Star Wars 7x7, episode 2447. Hey, let's do an update on the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, shall we? Punch it! Hey, Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So, we're going to do this, and also, just by extension, it's actually going to be a Book of Boba Fett update in a small way as well. So, recently, there have been a couple of new reports about the Obi-Wan series, and also a rumor kicking around that we'll address as well. But one of the reports had to do with a rumored casting situation. Deadline Hollywood broke the news that Indira Varma is supposed to be appearing in the Obi-Wan series along with Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. However, this is an unconfirmed report. But generally speaking, on casting stuff like this, the Hollywood trades are usually pretty good about this. So, I'd say that there's, a better than even likelihood that this is accurate reporting. Naturally, people are wondering if it's possible whether she's being cast as the Duchess Satine, who by this time in the timeline, since this is supposed to be taking place 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, has died, and so would she be appearing in flashbacks? And while that's certainly possible, it's hard to say whether this would really be the case. It seems like, I guess I might have believed it a little bit more when we heard that Hayden Christensen was being cast to appear in the series, and they said there's going to be a showdown between Obi-Wan and Anakin / Darth Vader, the likes of which we haven't seen. This is going to be like, the rematch, basically. And so because of that, I think I have become less focused on the idea of flashbacks as being an active part of this story. And especially when you consider that if Obi-Wan and Vader are going to have some kind of confrontation, that it's going to have to take place off of Tatooine, and they've said as much in the information that they shared at the Investor Day, that it's going to be, rollicking, like globe-trotting kind of situation, like they're going to go out and about in the galaxy. So it stands to reason that Indira Varma would be playing a character who Obi-Wan meets along the way. Or heck, maybe she's a contact within the Rebel Alliance, which is certainly possible. And that leads me to a rumor that had been proposed about Obi-Wan Kenobi appearing in the Andor series, which is also certainly a possibility. The Andor series is filming right now. The Obi-Wan series isn't yet. We'll be getting to that aspect in a moment. But for Obi-Wan to appear in the Andor series, there would have to be a couple of connections made for that to make sense. One of them would have to be, you would think, that either Genevieve O'Reilly, who is playing Mon Mothma, or Jimmy Smits, who would play Bail Organa, but he has not been announced anywhere for the series as far as I know. That was a rumor that was kicking around last year, but nothing has come to fruition on that. But right now, as far as we know, I don't think Mon Mothma actually knows where Obi-Wan Kenobi is, just that Bail Organa is in touch with a Jedi who is in hiding, but that's as much as she knows about the subject, and probably better that, the fewer people know about it, the better, just, for purposes of keeping the secret. Keeping everything compartmentalized, that's what I was trying to remember to say. But if Jimmy Smits is not going to be in this thing, then I find it highly unlikely that Obi-Wan Kenobi would end up in it. I suppose there's also a possibility that randomly Cassian ends up on Tatooine and somehow randomly crosses paths with the guy, but yeah, it seems like a little much. But the thing about that rumor about Obi-Wan appearing in the Andor series, the website that mentioned that also said that casting was happening for Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3, and James Gunn, who is directing that movie, actually made a point of saying this is absolutely not true, and where do you get this stuff? So I really think you have to take that with a grain of salt. Anyway, what we don't have to take with as much of a grain of salt is that Ewan McGregor himself has said that he believes the Obi-Wan Kenobi series will be filming beginning in late spring, And as opposed to rumors that it would be happening in Boston on the other side of the pond, not Boston, Massachusetts, that it would be filming in LA and in the volume that's there, which has implications for a couple of things. First of all, the Book of Boba Fett is already filming there, and they're supposed to be on track for a December 2020 release. But that still works out okay, because if you think about when Season 2 of The Mandalorian finished filming, which was, I believe, right around the end of February, just before things shut down with the pandemic, they finished in February and they were ready to go live in October. So if you imagine that the Book of Boba Fett is a couple of months, I'm not behind, don't get me wrong, they're not behind, just in terms of it doesn't line up, right? If they're 2 months different from that situation, if they film by the end of April, then they can go by the end of December, and that timeline works exactly like the Mandalorian season timeline works, and so then the Obi-Wan series can come in right after the Book of Boba Fett series is done. That just raises one other question, which is, when will the Mandalorian Season 3 start filming? If the Obi-Wan series is going to start in late spring and start filming there, well, then that really pushes the Mandalorian off a ways. The other variable that we don't know about is that at the Disney Investor Day, they announced that they were building stagecraft locations, another one in Los Angeles, also one in London, and one in, I believe it was Australia. I think that's right. Certainly, it was either Australia or New Zealand. I'm pretty sure it was Australia. Anyway, so we don't know when those facilities are going to be complete and whether the Mandalorian could jump into one of those while the Obi-Wan series is still filming, but it doesn't sound like that's the case. It sounds like that's a thing that will be ready a couple of years down the line, and so they're just kind of stacking at the LA facility. But if Ewan McGregor's right about his time frames and that they're shooting in LA, then that means filming for The Mandalorian is likely pushing even farther out in 2021, which means that it's going to be even farther out into 2022 before we actually see Season 3. We could go even as much as 2 full years from the debut of Season 2 to get to the debut of Season 3. A lot of this is still in flux, though, so we'll be keeping an eye on it, and as news breaks on the subject, you will hear about it here on Star Wars 7x7 as well. So that's where things stand, and I'd love to hear what you think about this. Are you most excited for the Book of Boba Fett, or Andor, or Kenobi, or all 3 series, or The Mandalorian Season 3? I'd love to know what you think about this. So chime in, facebook.com/SW7x7, or youtube.com/SW7x7, or home base for the show at SW7x7.com. And that's going to do it for today. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it, as always. And may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
Star Wars 7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.